Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to Crossroads. Hey, why don't you stand up, sing this song with us. It's called This Is Amazing Grace. Who breaks the power of sin and darkness? Whose love is mighty and so much stronger? The King of glory, the King above all kings. Who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder and leaves us breathless in awe and wonder? The King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. Cross. You lay down your life that I would be set free. Whoa, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes the orphan a son and daughter? The King of glory, the King of glory. Who rules the nations with truth and justice? Shines like the sun in all of his brilliance. The King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You lay down your life. That I would be set free. Whoa, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Sing, worthy is the Lamb. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy love. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. You've done for me. All that you've done for me. All that you've done for me. Whatever pleases you will be our path. We're trading what we have for what will last. And we will seek your face and not your hands. Whatever pleases you will be our path.
We sing these words a lot around here. We'll seek your face and not your hands. At first glance, these words might provoke thoughts of, why don't we want to seek his hands? Or don't we want to see his hands working in our lives and in our cities? Yes, of course we do. But it's not his hands that represent the fullness of who he is. It's his face. Why is it so important to seek God's face? If my kids only wanted to be around me for what was in my hands or pockets, it would break my heart, because I have so much more to give them. And how much more God, being a good father and a good king, would want us to seek him, not only for his blessings, but for his character, his nature, his essence. To know God for who he is the most powerful blessing we could ever receive from him.
Call us out to the unknown, uncertain. We will call to mind your age's faithfulness to your people, your creation. We will look to you, the author of our lives. Whatever pleases you will be our path. Where the road will lead, we are empty, we are broken. When the enemy is strong and there seems nowhere to run, we will trust you, you are with us. And we will look to you, the author of our lives. We will look, and we will look to you. Only ever you. Whatever pleases you will be our path. Take what we have, what will last. We will seek your face and not your hand. Whatever pleases you will be our path. Whatever pleases you will be our path. Take what we have, what will last. We will see your face and not your hand. Whatever pleases you will be our path. You guys sing it, whatever pleases you will be our path. We're trading what we have for what will last. And we will see your face and not your hands. Whatever pleases you will be our path. So just about a week ago now, I was asked to play for a funeral of a woman who had been a part of Crossroads a long time, been a part of this community, and had been sick for a while. And she actually had this really unique place of sort of being able to help plan and prepare for her own memorial service. And I sort of got asked to be a part of this last minute. And when they gave me the list of songs that they wanted me to play, I was just sort of shocked. And I asked around, dug around a little bit, and found out that there were two songs that this woman, Diane, asked to have played at her memorial service that are just incredible statements and testimonies of her faith, of her trust in God in the midst of difficulty, in the midst of sickness. And one of them is this song that we're about to sing. And so I would love, this song will forever just mean something a little bit different to me now. And the chorus of this song says, "Into your hands I commit my spirit. Into your hands I lay me down." This statement of trust in the midst of really, really tough stuff is the kind of trust and kind of faith that I want to grow into. So I would encourage for each person on this stage, each person in this room, let's just ask God to build our trust, that we don't always understand everything that's going on, but there is opportunity for faith and hope in the midst of anything. So this chorus goes like this. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Into your hands I lay me down. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Into your hands I lay me down. When you are here, and your voice is like thunder, when your presence surrounds, and when I can't see you, your voice is a whisper, when you're nowhere to be found. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Into your hands I lay me down. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Into your hands I lay me down. Let's sing that verse again. When you are here and your voice is like thunder, when your presence surrounds, and when I can't see you, your voice is a whisper, when you're nowhere to be found. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Into your hands I lay me down. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Into your hands I lay me down. For you will reveal, yes, you will reveal, you will.
When peace is known, with favor abounding, when my cup overflows, when left to wander a museum of failures, when I've got nothing to show. When peace is known, with favor abounding, when my cup overflows, when left to wander a museum of failures, when I've got nothing to show.
Into your hands I commit my spirit. Into your hands I lay me down. Into your hands I commit my spirit into your hands. I lay me down, for you will reveal. Yes, you will redeem. You will redeem. You will redeem. You will reveal. You will redeem. You will reveal. You will redeem. You hold the reins on sun and the moon, like horses driven by kings. You cover the mountains and valleys below with the breath of your mighty wings. All treasures of wisdom and things to be known are hidden inside your hands. And in this fortunate turn of events, you asked me to be your friend. You asked me to be your friend. And you are my first, you are my last, you are my future and my past. And you are my first, you are my last, you are my future and my past. The constellations are swimming inside the breath of your desire. Where could I run to and where could I hide from your heart's jealous fire? All treasures of wisdom and things to be known are hidden inside your hands. And in this fortunate turn of events, you asked me to be your friend. You asked me to be your friend. And you are my first, you are my last, you are my future and my past. And you are my first, you are my last, you are my future and my past. I hear everybody sing, you are the beginning and the end. And you are the beginning and the end. And you are the beginning and the end. You are. And you are the beginning and the end. And you are the beginning and God, I love the reminders that these songs are, that you never give up on us. God, that you are never done revealing more of who you are to us. So as we continue on in this series, just trying to draw really practical and tangible lines between obligation and genuine relationship with you, between empty religion and knowing you personally. And God, I just ask that you would help us to set aside our assumptions, our presumptions, our baggage about who we think you are, and instead encounter you with the truth of who you really are, of who you say you are. So God, just help us to see you way more clearly today. In your name, amen. Hey guys, do me a favor. Say hello to a couple people around you that you don't know. Introduce yourself, shake their hand, and grab a seat.
This place is unlike anything in the world because it stands in the intersection of three major religions. This city has nothing to draw us to it. It has no great natural wonders around it. It's not a port city. It's the spiritual history of this city that makes it powerful. On Easter, we're going to be taking you through different sites where Jesus and his followers actually were. And I'm trusting that you are going to be blessed and you're going to grow to a new place in your understanding of yourself, and most importantly, your understanding of Jesus.
Wow, you know, when I watch that, I can't help but be thankful for the age we live in when we actually get to experience that halfway across the globe. That's pretty awesome. My name's Kamari. I'm one of the volunteers around here. And if you were here last year during Easter, I think you'd agree that it was such a powerful, moving experience. So powerful that we're doing it again. And there's a few things you need to know that are different. We are having different service times. So Saturday, 4 and 6, and then 3 services on Sunday. More info to come, but this is really a great opportunity where we get to be obsessive includers. And we would love for you guys to extend the invitation to friends, neighbors, coworkers, anybody really. And we just want to get them in here and get them to experience this awesome, awesome event in God's love. So we got a lot of really exciting things going on around here. One thing coming up is the Catalyst Conference. If you haven't heard, the Catalyst Conference is a leadership conference not only for church leaders, but also for community leaders that love God. And so you can see some of the speakers we have, including Brian Tome, which is awesome. And this is another opportunity to invite everybody you know. And again, you don't have to be a church leader. More info to come on this, but if you go online now, you can take advantage of a special promo code to save even more. And then after Easter, we are doing the Brave Journey again. And you can clap for that. If you remember last year, it was such another powerful experience, and we saw some really awesome things come out of it that we thought we'd do it again. If you're new around here, a journey is a 6-week immersive, intense study where we're all headed toward the same place. It's for everyone, babies through adults, and there's 4 major components. There's the individual component, the weekend message, the small group experience, and then the prayer experience at the end. And I will say, probably the most critical part is the small group. That's when you really get to dive deep and develop some pretty lasting relationships. In fact, when my husband and I moved here 3 years ago, we didn't know anybody, and it was the journey experience where we met some of our first friends. The last thing I will mention is that we are looking for hosts for this year. So if that's something you thought about or you're wondering what that might be like, just start thinking if God's calling you that way, because we could really use hosts to step up and be leaders this year. And start thinking about what those groups might look like too. Now, if you've been around for a few weeks, you know we're in this series called Death to Religion, which seems like an odd title, but that's the way we do things around here. And it's really about breaking down the barriers between us and God, and really having a real relationship with him. And one way we get to do that is by being sacrificial givers. So we get a chance to do that right now. There are a couple ways to give. You can drop something in the basket that goes around in a few minutes, or you can go online at crossroads.net/give and set up a recurring gift like we do. And if you're new here and you're kind of taking it all in, just relax, sit back. We got you. We understand. We're just glad that you guys are here. And while we're doing that, we're going to watch a video that shows what it's like when we go into a deep journey with God. Thanks for being here.
My step in my brave journey was to spend more time in the Word with God in the midst of my busy life of being a new husband, a new father, and in doing so, I was able really to experience the love of God as a father, which is something I really had a hard time grasping.
My heading going into the Brave Journey was to explore international adoption. I was very scared. I didn't feel like I had the energy to parent a 4th child and to go back to toddler years, and I just didn't feel worthy of that.
Brave was life-changing for me. I went into the journey feeling unworthy, unredeemable, and I didn't think salvation was an option for me.
Following the Brave Journey, God gave me the courage to go ahead and follow my dream. And that dream was to become a marketing professor at Xavier University. I left a great job that I'd been at for 9 years, plenty of friends, really good money. It was his plan, and I was ready to go.
The way I walk out in my life now is constantly reminding myself that God wants me as his son, that God is overwhelmed by my love for him, and that he loves me as a son. I now also get to see that as a father to 2 young, beautiful daughters, and I get to see his love again in that way.
God placed on my heart to be baptized at the end of the journey, and I am definitely afraid of water. So to be obedient in that was just awe-inspiring.
Chuck talked about storms and about how when you step off the boat, you're gonna fall and that it's gonna take you to the end of yourself. And that's exactly how I was feeling at the time. But we decided to say yes. And a year later, this May, we will be traveling to China to pick up our daughter.
This experience has been amazing. It's been among the most life-changing events I've ever experienced.
I'm burning my lies, walking in truth with Christ, and now I have a new lease on life.
I am worthy and I am brave.
I am loved and I am brave.
I'm blessed and I'm brave.
Terrific stuff. People are talking about outrageous life changes, changing their jobs, getting baptized, adopting people from overseas, getting in regular relationships every week. It's crazy stuff that can happen as soon as we break beyond the barriers of our comfort. And Brave does that. Our journeys do that. But we're also in this really stimulating, I think, series called Death to Religion. We did that on purpose so we'd get a little head tilt from all of us, because we can kind of settle into our rhythm, settle into the normal, and just go and execute and execute and execute. And so last week we looked at how there are some weird spin-offs of religion, how religion can count on ourselves so that we perform almost like a silver bullet to produce certain results. And these byproducts that come off are things like separation and racism. And today I want to talk about pride. and how pride can be one of those spin-offs. As we continue to think that we're in control, as we continue to think that religion gives us a formula, we can just step into certain types of behavior, and as long as those are being complied to, we can think that we're okay. When in fact, that can become the very barrier to holding us back from a relationship with God. And as I got this topic, I thought, oh my goodness, it sounds so heavy to talk about pride. Poor folks are going to sit there and I'm going to feel like this is just so heavy. I am going to try to show some light and some levity about how we do things that are just a paradox. And I'm hopefully also giving you enough personal examples where you might be able to call on your own experiences and see where you might be failing to a prideful spirit in different areas of your life. I remember back to when I was a college student at the University of Illinois, and I had a great house that I lived in. I think it was freshman year, maybe sophomore year, and people knew about my relationship that I had with a girl in a different university. And so I would do the long distance thing. Now, I'd wait until midnight. You guys don't know about this thing if you're young, but I would wait until midnight when the rates went down just so that I could offset some of the costs, because we would talk for long periods of time. Well, it was so expensive that, let me just tell you, it was the equivalent dollars today were about $600 to $700. It was $180 to $210 a month that I'd be getting a phone bill for. Now, I was putting myself through school every penny. I was working 3 jobs just to make it happen, and these costs were outrageous. They were over and above, but I knew there was something special about this girl, so I was going to be talking at all hours of the night, trying to get some time with her. Turns out to be my wife, so it was a good investment, but the deal is that as I did so, I was racking up crazy phone bills that I could barely pay for. Well, my roommates and some of the other guys living in my house knew this, so they thought, we're going to challenge Mark with some crazy dares because he's pretty nutty. He'll do just about anything. Now, I'm going to put this as a parenthesis. This was a while ago, but I was trying to figure out my way and try to figure out how I was going to follow Christ in doing this. But they came up with some pretty outrageous challenges. And so my answer was no for a bunch of them, until finally they came up with $137, which was enormous. Okay, it was like $400 today in equivalent dollars, or $350, something like that. And we're sitting here with this gap of me needing the $350 and wondering, okay, is anybody going to get offended if I do this? And the challenge was that I would go in my underwear to the bar across the street. And so I thought, you know, I'm more clothed than most people are at the beach or something like that. Why not? What the heck? For $137, I'll do just about anything. So I said yes, and my goal was to go in there and find a guy and come up with something that was semi-witty. So I found him in the bar. I'm in my underwear, and I said, is there a dress code around here? And everybody looked, and it was pretty humiliating. Now, you might think that the humility that I took there was enough to shame me, but it wasn't actually. I came back running to the house and got my $137, and it was pretty exciting. And then, of course, I had a couple of people who were offended in my house. See, I lived in a Christian house, and some of the folks there had been raised really conservative, so it was easy for me to point the finger at them and say, oh, they are so religious. It's their fault that they're upset, not mine by any means. And I thought, you know, certainly I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't sinful to go. I was clothed. It wasn't like it was a huge thing, but it was embarrassing, and I actually offended some. And I wish the story ended there, but God didn't let me sit on that too long. So as I got into a couple of conversations, particularly with my new roommate, which made it outrageously awkward, I had to go through how that offended him and how he thought that, you know, guys who are pursuing Christ, whether you're there or not, should not be doing those kinds of things. And it brought some shame on the house and so on. I remember thinking, that is what's wrong with religion. But God just kept eating away at my heart and saying, wait, is there anything else that you need to pay attention to on this thing? And so honestly, to this day, I don't feel bad about running into the bar in my underwear for the act itself, but I feel awful for what I did to my relationship with my new roommate. Because I had actually known that he was going to be offended. I had known there were going to be some other people in the house that were going to be offended, and I still did it. And so I said, why did I still do it? Was it the $137? You know, am I pimping myself out for pranks? What's the equation here? And I think it was much, much deeper than that, something that actually really ate away at my heart. And that was that I probably did it because I liked the recognition. because it caused a lot of stir in the house, because it caused a lot of controversy, because it was fun, because it was crazy, because it positioned me as someone who's willing to do anything in the house. And so the more I thought about it, that was the very essence of what pride is. It's trying to create a persona and reinforce it, trying to present something out to my roommates, to my classmates, to people even at the bar. That these people in this Christian house weren't a bunch of weren't a bunch of conservative people. They were wackos just like they were. And that projection just ate away at my heart because it wasn't the kind of image that I was trying to put out there. And so as I started looking over the last 2-3 weeks about what does Jesus have to say about pride, unfortunately, it was a long couple of 2-3 weeks. He has a lot to say about it. Moreover, I had a lot of work that I needed to consider. Looking introspectively, looking at all the times and all the different types of scenarios where I step into a prideful heart. And so if there's one point I want you to take away today, it's that pride yields bondage. It keeps us captive, keeps us down. And humility yields freedom. It's this amazing invitation to say, no, you can shed behind what you're trying to elevate yourself in. And if you take this other position of humility, things can actually lead to your freedom. And so my journey looked first like looking at what kind of verses did God give us to live by. And I was studying out in the Beatitudes. Brian had talked about Matthew 5 and how he talked about the contrasts of different behaviors. And 2 verses stuck out. One of them was about murder and one of them was adultery. So let's look at Matthew chapter 5, verses 21 and 22 first. You've heard it said, "You shall not murder. And anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you, anyone who is even angry with a brother or sister will be subject to that same judgment." Now that's an incredible standard. And what about adultery? He writes in verses 27 and 28, "You've heard it said that you shall not commit adultery. But I tell you, anyone who even looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart." And women, that goes for you just as well. It turns out that the physiological reactions that women have are very, very similar to the way that men behave. And so anything that we do in the area of anger or in the area of lust is every bit as bad, Jesus is saying, as the murder or the adultery on the outside. What a crazy standard, as if we can't get it. I can't live out the ones that are already there. The Jews had lived 2,000 years trying to execute in their performing ways how not to sin. First, it was 400 years from Abraham to Moses, and then 1,600 from Moses to Jesus. And over and over and over again, there were 613 laws. It was impossible to keep them all. And so they went about trying to pose as though they could, trying to project that they were really much cleaner than their hearts were. And so this barrier of performance got in the way of relationship. This religion got in the way of relationship with God, and Jesus had to come. And he had to tell us things like he just said. And he goes on even further in Matthew chapter 23, as if it wasn't clear enough. You're hopeless, you religious scholars and Pharisees. You're frauds. You burnish the surface of your cups and your bowls so that they can sparkle in the sun, while the insides are maggoty with your greed and your gluttony. Scour the inside, and then the gleaming surface can mean something. Wow. I thought this is a fun talk to bring to the community. Man, I am guilty on so many fronts of trying to project different kinds of things. So we look at this word, he calls them frauds and fakes. Another word for that in today's language is poser. It's projecting something that we wish we could be, and that regardless of what religion we adopt, whether it's one of the 5 major faiths, whether it's some hybrid, whether it's some version thereof, or maybe you're one of the folks that hasn't yet said, yeah, I agree with any of these things, I'm still in a live and let live. I still want to just pursue comfort and fun. Whatever you have chosen, those are your religious choices. There are certain codes, certain morals, certain behaviors, certain ethics, practices that you say, I ascribe to these. Regardless of where it is, we can't meet the standards of what we want to project. And the number one reason for people not pursuing faith, not wanting to be pursuing Christianity, is hypocrisy. Because all the rules end up showing how frail and how we fail. And I agree with them. Religion does lead to hypocrisy. Religion keeps us prisoners. That's why I said the whole issue of pride keeps us in bondage, because I can't perform well enough. I can't hit that silver bullet. I can't do these things and get these results. And Jesus said, that's what I want to talk to you about. And so today I have three very simple and straightforward points. The first one is that we are all posers. All of us. It's prevalent. It's every day. For me, it's probably every hour. There are things that I'm projecting about myself every day that are less than ideal. There are areas that I know my standards here, but the way I'm acting it out is over here. And so I repackage, or I try to present a clean cup or bowl when the inside is caught with gluttony or whatever. God says when your insides don't sync with your outsides, it's a gap. And people can see it. They can. Ben Franklin said there's three things that are incredibly hard. The first one is steel. The second one, a diamond. And the third is to know oneself. And that was in 1750, 254 BF, before Facebook, right? That was before any of this posturing. Okay? Americans are just riddled with how we present ourselves. It's all around us. It attacks us. Not only do we care about how others see us, we care about how we see us. When I don't feel like I measure up, I feel that dissonance. I feel that gap. And so I try to cover up. I try to change and address it in some way, shape, or form. And there's something that all of us do. I'm going to be able to include you because the statistics say you do it in some area or another or many of these areas. Foundational study was done in 1976, and since then it's been proved over and over again. They gave SAT tests to seniors, and they also attached some inventories. And they asked these students, how do you rate yourselves, below average, average, or above average, on the following attributes? And as they went through it, the number of answers were so consistent. Way more than half rated themselves well above average. 70%, for example, considered themselves to be well above average and have the gift of leadership. 85% said they were easier to get along with than average. Now, I am pretty decent at math, but I guarantee you that is not add up. The most ironic is a study from Oz Adazoy, who is a researcher and found out these things happen in every area, not just back in 1976. That study continues to be proved over and over again. It's a psychological phenomenon where we feel we have to give a better impression of ourselves, where we think more highly. 93% of us, for example, consider ourselves better than average drivers. Now, let's do the math there, and given the evidence of what you see on the road, come on, I know that I'm actually bad. I know I'm in the bottom 7%. This one I actually don't ascribe, I'm on the top. 94% of professors, college professors were surveyed, 94% think they're better than average. Hello. And one that I find most ironic is this third one. Most people think they're more likely to provide accurate self-assessments. Get into that catch-22. It's crazy. We die to elevate ourselves because we have these goals, these visions of who we want to be. And we're eager to satisfy that. And when we fall short, hypocrisy faces us and we just can't stand it. And so we repackage how we'd like to be to other people. It's a weight that we have to carry. I'm going to pull a easy visual for you to see how this manifests itself by pulling out an old classic, Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. He has to, in case you don't know the movie, live a day over and over and over again until he, quote, gets it. So he's going through and trying to figure out this whole new scenario where he gets to live the day over and over again, and he starts identifying things he wants. And one of them is a relationship with Andie MacDowell, who is named Rita in the movie. Let's take a look at this clip. I love that. It's an awesome journey. He's sitting here, He's too humble to think he's perfect. That's me! It's this great circle that all of us put us into somehow. It's a way to protect ourselves from missing the mark. It's a way to protect ourselves from not being the person that we'd like to be, or the person that maybe someone of interest wants us to be. And it's a weight. And it manifests all the time. I say that it's prevalent because if you look at things like, just think of social media in general. Think of selfies. Have you ever taken a selfie that really does the worst to you and just gone crazy with it? What's your Facebook look like? Right? They're all the coolest things that we do, the funniest, wittiest comments that we have on tweets or whatever it is you're sending out, the absolute best scenario, vacations that you have that are cool places. Whatever it is, we're trying to present our best because we want other people to think we got it together. Look at finances and how we manage that. Over half of the country has more debt than they could possibly pay. Okay, we try so hard to live at a certain standard that we do things with cars, with clothes, with vacations, with homes, whatever it is, to get to a place where it looks like we've arrived. We present with a whole bunch of different things to get attention from the opposite sex, whether it's flirting or ultimately cheating, the impact to our marriages, to our boyfriends, girlfriends, the relationships that we have are profound. We just love to have that affirmation for the person we want to be. And then think about achievement, things like work. Guilty. Think about how you package your kids and how you present about your kids if you have them. Guilty. Or you think about sports. My glory days before all my surgeries. Guilty. We love to present a different person because we see ourselves in a more optimistic and positive way than perhaps we are. And that gap actually prevents us from the very thing that we're seeking. And so while point one is that we're all posers, point two is that it's exhausting. It's incredibly difficult to carry this persona around. And it's an expression of pride. That as we carry this around, we become more and more fatigued, presenting. And other people know when we're presenting. That's the sad thing. It's not as though people don't know you're posing, and yet we continue to do it. We present some kind of an image, some kind of factors. We're in conversations, and we say things that we think the other person wants to hear. We present in a different way. Let's stay with our friend Bill Murray as he now gets to live a couple of days finding out what Rita really wants and what she did and how he can package himself to be the person she really wants. Let's give a look. That is awesome. I love it. She so delicately presents her vulnerability about having studied French poetry, and he slams her. What a waste of time. And given the second chance, he changes his gig just so he can communicate a different, interested guy for something she values. It's hysterical, but it's painful. And it happens all over the place. It is a burden. It's exhausting to pose. In fact, it's happening right now, even as we speak. We've been in the middle of a presidential campaign. And I'm telling you, folks, this is not a slam on any one candidate. I'm just going to show you a couple of pictures of the front runners. This is exhausting. This is what happens when you have to run for office. You are presenting some kind of an impression, and you're giving a laundry list of things that you stand for, and the burden of having to carry that and have people go back and fact check. My wife is like, oh, these people. Every single person is saying different things today than they said before. So I'm not just picking on these two. Our political system is, I think, the best in the world. But it's us that make it so painful because we present what we think you're going to want, what you think you're going to vote for. And somehow, that system continues in our lives. It continues in my life. One of the areas that is most difficult for me to admit is that somehow, whenever I find myself, I've been in ministry now for about 14 years plus, one of the painful things that I do is that when I feel like I'm inadequate or I'm doing something less than good or I feel like I just exposed how ignorant I am in a certain area, I always have some kind of a thought that races into my mind, and I try very hard to lance it, but before you know it, it slips out. I pull a reference to what I used to do in business because I was successful back there. So therefore, if I give you this business example, you're going to trust me more, and you won't think I'm a doofus because I can actually do this. If you just give me a little more time, I earn your favor. I can do it, I promise. And it's this crazy cycle of somehow trying to pull old successes to justify current weaknesses in areas that are just inadequate. And yet God says there's a challenge here. It's happening all the time. You're presenting an image that you can't sustain. It even happened this week. We do this thing called team teaching where we get our outlines together and we package them up, and whoever's doing the teaching that weekend, they go in front of the teaching team. And the teaching team is there simply to help you. They're there to give you ideas, to help you structure your content, to talk about other examples you may want to include. And so Brian does this every week that he's talking. And when the campus pastors get to speak, we go in front of the same teaching team. And one of the smartest guys on our staff is a guy named Kyle, and he has pearls of wisdom. He is brilliant, and I love his feedback. So I secretly try to get Kyle's approval about my messages. And so Kyle is in the middle of saying, okay, Mark, well, I think you got this, but I would move this here, and I would actually strip that and put this example in instead. Because honestly, that's what your heart is really coming across saying. So I'm teaching on pride, right? So what is my response? Well, Kyle, I know that. I had that in my talk. I actually wrote that down. That was inside here. I really did think of that ahead of time. It was beyond embarrassing. How on earth? I'm on pride, no less. And I'm humiliating myself. And that's one of the beautiful things. That if we don't choose to be humble, if we don't pursue humility, if we don't dive into it, forces end up giving us some humiliation. And it's painful. People know it, and we know. Where's the area that you might be cringing? Where's the area that you might be carrying, like me, that just embarrasses you? Where you don't want to try to present this false sense of self. Where you don't want to present like you got it all together. It's a burden. It's exhausting. Not only are we all posers, but it's exhausting. And God wants to offer us freedom. And this beautiful paradox is summed up in a short, punchy way by the Apostle Paul, who fought Christianity before he encountered Jesus. And he says this in 2 Corinthians chapter 12. He said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, that I delight in weakness, in insult, in hardships, in persecutions, and difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. What a beautiful paradox. It isn't up to us. We don't have to carry it all. We don't have to be perfect. The striving that we do for religion results in a cover-up of pride, and it is heavy. So if we want to shed that, what does it look like? How can we move beyond that? The answer is humility. Humility is freedom. Humility is freedom. It's that simple. When we take the lower position, the servant position, there's no expectation. The burden is lifted immediately. So the call, the invitation from God is that, hey, you don't have to carry this, you know it all, or you're great at, or whatever it is. Take the lower position. Look, my son did it. For 2,000 years, the Israelites tried to perform their way. They couldn't get it, so I had to send my son. And he came and he gave an invitation, and the invitation is freeing. It's an invitation to freedom, where we don't have to pose, where we don't have to posture everything we do. We don't have to feel embarrassed about certain things that we're inadequate in. The smallest drop of God's strength is more than enough to cover my inadequacies. And that's what I need to reach for. In humility, I have to recognize I have needs. Pride fights admitting that we have needs. We don't like taking the lower position. Jesus did it all the time. When I went back and looked, I couldn't even include all of the different verses. I just picked out 5 that have some implications for us that I thought we could look at that say, if we do these 5 things, we might experience some of that freedom that humility promises. Let's look first at Ephesians 5. It says simply, submit to one another. That is, don't carry your own agenda. What if you took about someone else's burden? What if we laid our objectives down and we thought of someone else's? It's freeing. Look in Philippians 2, verse 7. Jesus made himself no reputation. What kind of a weight do I carry around just to create some kind of a reputation? Jesus says, you don't have to do that. I didn't work on my reputation. In fact, I took no reputation. And I let what I did speak for itself. In Isaiah 53, verse 7, it says, Jesus was afflicted, yet he didn't open his mouth. How many times have I defended myself to my wife, to my coworkers, for something stupid I did? Jesus didn't even do anything stupid, but he didn't advance his cause. He wasn't promoting himself. He wasn't trying to explain or justify. Man, I explain all the time. When something doesn't go right, I want to make sure people know, well, wait, I can definitely address that, don't worry. And I start explaining away. Jesus invites us, don't explain. You don't have to at all. You don't have to open your mouth. And in Philippians 2, verse 3, it says, do nothing out of ambitious or vain conceit. So many areas that we get in trouble in have to do with us trying to advance ourselves, us having a different kind of a goal and trying to usher it in with our performance. And Jesus didn't do anything. In fact, it says, being in the very nature God, he humbled himself as man to come and rescue us. And then in 1 Peter 5:5, it says, humble yourselves under God's mighty hand that he may one day lift you up. You don't need to take credit. You don't need to promote because Jesus didn't. When Jesus gave up even his life, he was washing feet, feeding people, healing people, serving. And here he is, God, taking the lowest position. And what's the result? God the Father elevated him to a place above all names, above all kings. And the invitation is for you and I to surrender. I'm going to wrap with a really sweet story about Peter in the last chapter of the Gospel of John. John and Peter were both one of Jesus' 12. They went around, spent 3 years with the man. And they watched everything he did. And their goal was to learn. It was all about them absorbing what Jesus did. And then Jesus was very clear. He said, hey, you guys are very, very influential. I'm going to build my church on you 12, and you're going to go out and change the world. And he had forecasted his death, but when his death came, his disciples couldn't handle it. They were paralyzed. They just couldn't believe it. Even some of them denying that they knew him. And so at this point, Jesus has now broken free from the grips of death. He's risen from the dead and changed the world forever. And where are the disciples? They're in Galilee fishing. Why on earth would they be fishing? It doesn't make sense. They went back to what was comfortable, to the thing that they knew, to the thing that made them feel good about themselves. I can go back, I can earn some money, we'll get some momentum, maybe we'll do this church thing. And I don't know what was in their minds. But it's incredible that they went out fishing. And they were striking out all night long. And all of a sudden a voice from the shore shouts out and says, hey, flip your nets to the right side. And so I'm sure they wanted to give a whole bunch of answers. Like, the fish aren't biting right now. Oh, the clouds were wrong. Oh, the whatever. You know how fishermen are, posing. But they did it. And they threw the net to the other side, and they had a harvest they could not take in. And all of a sudden, John, the apostle whom Jesus loved most, what an interesting comment, by the way. Why did John have to package himself as that? Right? We'll let that slide. Anyway, so John, who loves Jesus, sees Jesus on the shore, and he says, it's Jesus, it is the Lord. And with that, Peter jumps out of the boat, swims in, struggles, is running toward the shore because he wants a few minutes with Jesus. And I thought for years that this was all about Peter's love for Jesus. And I still think it's true. He ran because he wanted to be with Jesus. He couldn't believe he had Jesus here in the flesh after death. But there's another thought. Louis Giglio, an author, wrote, I wonder if it might be because Peter hadn't really had a chance to talk with Jesus one-on-one. And he was just sneaking so he could have some minutes with Jesus before the apostles who couldn't bring the haul in. Peter abandons them, let them struggle. I'm going to go make it right with Jesus. And he gets to the shore. And I can only imagine what I would have said in that sense. I would have said something like, hey, Jesus, you know that time when I denied you? Yeah. Don't worry, that'll never happen again. It was just a mistake. And yeah, we're fishing, but one thing led to the next. We started out with bingo, and then it went to fishing. We'll get back on the trail. We'll start advancing your cause, I promise. You can count on me, Jesus. And Jesus says, no, Mark, I can't count on you. But man, you can count on me. That's why I came. I came here because it's not about you. It's not about religion. It's not about you elevating yourself. It's about you surrendering and taking my strength in your weakness. So I'm going to conclude here, and I'm going to invite Andy to come out and help us with a little experience to close this out. I want all of us to close our eyes, put our fists together, and stick them out in front of us. And I mean it about closing your eyes, because then we'll all feel weird if you don't. So we're going to go ahead and do this. And in your hands, I want you to imagine that you are holding on to something you do that you know, whether it was one of the examples I gave or something that privately God is revealing to you, or maybe it's just something that's eaten away. Maybe you don't even yet follow him, but you know there's a burden because you're posing. You're projecting that you're cooler, that you're really wanted by a certain group of kids, or that the girl or the guy that you want to date, they're going to provide that security, and you just don't want to give them up. Maybe you're like the rich young ruler, and all the work you've done has given you this sense of security because you have certain assets. Whatever it is that helps you along this empty feeling that I just don't measure up, we hold on to that so tightly. And so with your fists balled up in front of you, holding on to that which embarrasses us because we value it and we think it gives us pride or esteem or something good, I want to encourage us to open our hand and release it. And for me, I think I can just outwork everyone. I know I can get more done than anyone else because I just outwork them. And therefore, I know God's going to have favor with me. I want to release that, Father. I want my friends in here to release whatever that relationship is, whatever that addiction is that comforts us, whatever fishing looks like to Peter in our lives, God. I want to release that. I want my friends to be free from the exhausting nature of posing, of pride, of religion. And Father, as we turn our hands upright to the heavens, we come empty-handed. We know there is nothing that we do that can somehow earn your favor or make things right with you. But your surrender, your death and resurrection is all we need, and it's your power that can now fill our hands. So God, as we come before you with weakness and we admit our needs, we want you to fill our hands. As we surrender, give us what we need. We love you. Amen. Andy's going to sing for us, Remind Me Who I Am, because our identity is not the way that we pose. It comes through a relationship with Jesus.
Tell me once again who I am to you, who I am to you. And tell me lest I forget who I am to you. To you. When I lose my way and I forget my name, remind me who I am. In the mirror all I see is who I don't wanna be. Remind me who I am. In the loneliest places, when I can't remember what grace is, tell me. And tell me once again who I am to you, who I am to you. And tell me lest I forget who I am to you. I belong to you. To you.
I bless you to go this week. I encourage every one of us to find a person that we trust, a person that we love, and to share what we've been carrying, to share our surrender, and to ask for their prayer and their support. Have a great week, you guys. I'll see you next weekend. Thanks for being here.